the mandate given by the First Presidency and the presiding bishopric is to only focus on financial growth. EPA employees are told that the money will be used after the second coming of Jesus Christ or during Armageddon right before he would come again.
One of our brethren some years ago spoke of the payment of tithing as fire insurance. Nonetheless, the word of the Lord is clear that those who do not keep the commandments and observe the laws of God shall be burned at the time of his coming.
The Lord wants all his children to partake of the eternal blessings available in his temple. He has directed what each person must do to qualify to enter his holy house. All requirements to enter the temple relate to personal holiness. To assess that readiness, each person who wants to enjoy the blessings of the temple will have 2 interviews. First, with a bishop, bishopric counselor, or branch president. Second, with a stake or mission president or one of his counselors. In those interviews, several questions will be asked. Some of those questions have recently been edited for clarity. I would like to review them for you now. Are you a full tithe payer?
Travis Wayne Goodsell. It is now the church news time. I don't have a script, so if I try something new, I'm most likely going to botch it. So we'll just church news time. All right, now the intro to lead into the church news. Just got through watching The Town by and with Ben Affleck. And in The Town, there's some people who are grown up in the church, and some guys, and they get hooked up with a criminal organization that has them commit crimes, and they have to give a cut to this criminal organization, who use a flower shop as their front of operations so that they can launder the money and avoid taxes and be able to commit crimes within town. And so Ben Affleck and crew are the ones being used to do the dirty work, to risk going to prison, to risk dying in a shootout with coppers, as this criminal organization has plausible deniability. Ain't got nothing on us. And so, yeah, there's RICO. They could easily pull down the criminal organization, but it's not brought up in the show, even though the FBI is involved. And so, pop quiz, why would I like it? Because if it's just guys committing crimes and Ben Affleck gets away with it in the end and everybody else dies, why would I like the movie? It's because there's a woman involved. No, not the whore. The good girl who's victimized in the opening bank robbery and overcomes the abuse in the end. So that's why I used to like Gwyneth Paltrow movies until she went off the deep end when Brad Pitt left her. Instead of channeling that emotion into her future movies, She then started doing vagina-scented candles and spiritualism crap. Poor Gwen. We still need a happy ending for her. And so, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says that the Book of Mormon is the keystone of our religion. Yeah, the introduction is over. We're getting to the good stuff. And yeah, it's on tithing. It's in the church news. We got to cover it. Church is pulling a fast one on the government. The House Ways and Means Committee. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I have associative memory. I don't have a script. I'm likely to get lost, and I won't remember where I left off. 2 Nephi 26, verses 29 to 31. And if Mormons are illiterate, I recommend you pull out your English grammar and vocabulary books so that you can understand the keystone of Mormonism. The Lord commandeth. Any confusion on what command means? Well, I know you're not supposed to command, otherwise amen to the priesthood, Travis. In any degree of unrighteousness. That's section 119. We're getting to it. That there should be no priestcrafts. Now, you don't need your English dictionary for this. It probably won't have it anyway, because it defines it in the Book of Mormon for you, just like baptism. In case you're confused as to which Christian version of baptism is the one true baptism. None. There's your clue. None. All of them are wrong. Verse 19 in the first vision. For behold, priestcrafts are that men, not women, preach and set themselves up for a light unto the world, that they may get gain and praise of the world, but they seek not the welfare of Zion. Okay? For behold, the Lord hath forbidden this thing. So, you cannot be involved in priestcraft. So, Articles of Incorporation by Heber J. Grant, 1923, now has it that the members from Brigham Young's branch off, remember, not everybody went with Brigham. Therefore, everybody's not commanded like Brigham commands them. Only those who went with Brigham are commanded to pay the church section 119 and anything else that the church demands. Okay? Articles of Incorporation. Been doing a video for you. You're now chattel, Mormons. Members of the church believe they're in a religious group, and so you have a lay ministry, all the way up to the stake president. However, Heber J. Grant formed a corporation, which the board of directors includes all 15 of the prophets, seers, revelators, and hell no, they don't have translator as a title, because that's all it is, are self-proclaimed titles, to fool the membership into thinking that they have magical powers, and they don't. They deny the power of prophecy and revelation. They won't do it. They even say so. And Mormons get punked. They get deceived. This is a criminal organization, guys. criminal organization, and you all fell for it. And so, yeah, if you're going to put a thumbs down on my video, it means you're the enemy. You are the threat to everyone in the world. Because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is involved in the middle of a coup. Not just in Congo or other countries around the world that's going on right now in the news. Okay, so section 119. Well, Travis C. Bruce R. McConkie says it came from the History of the Church, Volume 3, page 44, in which July 8th, 1838, Joseph Smith is saying that it's the new law of tithing. So it's Joseph Smith, it's not Brigham Young. You're wrong, Travis. Really? So Joseph Smith can just violate the Book of Mormon, huh? You know what else he did in 1838 that violated the Book of Mormon and violated Joseph Smith even? You got the list, it's in the box. There was a coup that occurred in 1838 by Brigham and his Danites. I've been doing these videos for you, and if you think that just because I don't talk about it in this video, you got me, you're going to deny and say, you're lying, Travis. Yeah, and then I point you to the beam in the moat from the New Testament, and then chapter 19 in Deuteronomy, the law of the Jews, about false accusers. You don't want to go up against me. This, in and of itself, section 119, violates the Book of Mormon. It is therefore unauthorized. Amen to the authority. Gone. This is invalid. Nobody is allowed to listen to it. And so, it's amazing how it didn't get published in 1842 when Joseph Smith got other stuff that he actually did published in the Times and Seasons. Why didn't he get this published in the Times and Seasons in 1842? He got the history of the church and the Book of Abraham with the facsimiles. All of that was published in 1842 when Joseph finally was there in Nauvoo and found out they had a Times and Seasons going. And as you go through the Times and Seasons, notice when Joseph is not around versus when Joseph is around. Notice the conferences that are held when Joseph isn't around and when Joseph is around. If you don't know what I'm referring to, I refer you to section 115. Oh, look at the date. Oh, right before he supposedly did the 1838 history, which didn't get published until 1842. What is the actual name of the church in verse 1? Give you a hint. Willard Richards changed it so that you wouldn't know. This was a coup, an insurrection. And so this came out in 1844 by Brigham Young. Joseph is now dead. And so Brigham took the opportunity to put this in. And so sure enough, the church last year, Nelson, rushed it to get published in the Joseph Smith papers, the Book of the Law. And instead of referring it to section 85 of the Doctrine and Covenants, they said, no, it's proof of the truth that section 119 is not a forged document, Travis. Blech. No, it is still. The Book of the Law is the ledger of the Danites. Because criminal organizations keep ledgers of all their financial transactions. And it's off the normal books. Okay. I refer you to John Wick. Oh, is that R-rated? You're never going to watch it because you fear the R rating? Don't fear the R rating. You've turned it into an idol god to fear. Idol worship. It's not just for worship. It's for fear. And the devil of all devils delighteth in idol worship. That's an exclusive Mormon doctrine. Is that 2 Nephi 9? Is that where it comes from, if I remember correctly? Anyway, it's from the Book of Mormon. Interesting. Priestcraft. All there in the Book of Mormon. So true. And you thought it was literal history. And so, they're trying to claim that this is what Joseph Smith meant in his version of tithing in section 64, which merely is quoting Malachi on tithing. So we'll have to go to that one first. Before we get to this, we already know no priestcraft. And so, Malachi, will a man rob God? Yes. Nelson does. Yet ye have robbed me, but what did you say? Wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Anybody see Schoolhouse Rock as a kid? Conjunction, junction, what's your function? I'm not sure if we want to use that in the theme song in the description below, but we'll keep it on the top of my mind, of which I will forget if I do not write it down. Because it is in YouTube. Conjunction, junction. Okay. So maybe it'll be an extra little special surprise for you. We'll see. Well, we could do Lady Red Light, prostitution. That's what section 119 does for women in the church. I'm getting ahead of myself. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. That's because they're all of the religion. This whole state of Utah and states internationally. Bring ye all the tithes I'm seeing a prepositional phrase into rather than a conjunction of and offerings. Just tithes. Into the storehouse. See, Travis, we have a bishop storehouse. Tithing doesn't go to the bishop storehouse. You know this. It's fast offerings. That there may be meat in mine house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts. So what is a storehouse? Is it where we give food to God? God actually comes to earth and eats it? So now that it's money, God comes down to earth and has money to spend on earth? Hey Jesus, you're back for the second coming. What are you gonna do now? I'm thinking about Disneyland, but maybe Disney World. I'm showing my age, aren't I? And so, yeah, if I will not open you the windows of heaven. Oh, Lorenzo Snow, where he freezes. Yeah, the whole movie never happened. They just made it all up. The church approved it, and then don't bother to tell anybody that they made it all up. They let Mormons believe that it's true, and it's not true. They lied. There was a drought that year when it was supposedly occurred, but the waters that came flooded the area and caused worse damage. Yep. And so, you then need to know the cultural background of Malachi. It's for the poor. Just like Bishop's Storehouse. And so when you give fruit, when you give animals, when you give vegetables to the poor, you're also giving them seeds. Now with animals, you got to have a male and a female. If you just have males, you got to have both. Freezing me because I'm on the church's site. Those cookies gave me away. And so, when you give food in its whole form to the poor, there's seed that accompanies it. If you don't eat the seeds also, you can then use the seeds and plant them in the ground. With a male and female animal, you can breed them, produce more animals. And then more, and then more, and then more. And then the poor are brought out of poverty. They now get to contribute to the economy. Huh. Well, but who's going to pay for it? Nobody! Dear God. Section 119. Verily thus saith the Lord, I require all Mormons' surplus property. Huh. Should we look up what the definition of all means? An amount of something left over when requirements have been met. An excess of production or supply over demand. All to the church. In the hands of the bagman of the criminal organization. The bishops. They're the ones that interview you for worthiness. Number 10, wow, that's clever. Number 10, for tithing worthiness of 10%. And Nelson got up at the pulpit of conference and declared, you must pay, it's number 10, you're not worthy. The bishop and then a member of the stake presidency both have to interview you for worthiness to get your temple recommend, otherwise no, no, no. And they've changed it. It was in 2020 when they snuck it in. You no longer get excommunicated or disfellowshipped. It's punished and severed. I can't remember the actual words, but it's no longer using those terms, just like less active. It's inactive, and the church didn't like that. So they're trying to manipulate your feelings by changing the wording. You know, instead of obey your husband, it's now hearken to the counsel of your husband. And now it's no longer that. You no longer have to obey or hearken to your husband anymore. You can kick him to the curb. Because you're now listening to Jesus. Yeah! Because I'm sure it's Jesus you're listening to, isn't it? Oh, wait. Nelson speaks for Jesus? So you're listening to Nelson, not Jesus. But they say you're listening to Jesus, but Nelson speaks for Jesus. So what does Nelson tell you to do? Follow the family proclamation. What does the family proclamation tell you to do? Obey your husband. Oops, it was a trap. You fell for it because of your sensitive, tender feelings. And so this is a criminal organization that he's setting up right from the beginning. All your surplus property, not a portion of protection racket money, it's all through the bagmen, the bishops. And they have the little deacons who are 12 years old now who go around and collect it from you. Well, used to. Now you do it online and you don't need the deacons. But there are some wards who want to have the deacons have something to do, and so they go back to the traditional way, and there's a few elderly people or leaders who will allow the deacons to come to their house and do the official process. And hopefully not steal the money of my church in Zion. Brigham Young's calling his church Zion. Joseph Smith is building Zions with the center stake of Zion for the purpose of preparing Mormons for the future Zion. Big difference. Brigham Young is going, oh man, they are hammering down on me. They know it's church news time. Hot lobster, yeah, people in the ocean, ooh. So yeah, remember this morning at 9 minutes, boom, got me. And then for 2 hours, nothing. Here, I'm on the internet, on the church's site, cookies. They know it's me. They know it's church news time. They see that I'm there. They see which page I'm on. They know. Okay? So, verse 1 sets up the criminal organization. Just like a crime organization, like the Godfather or the Sopranos or the Town with Ben Affleck. For the building of mine house. Yeah, the ledger. See, Joseph Smith asked for donations to build Nauvoo's temple when he finally got there. But Brigham Young, as it's his town, the town, Nauvoo, Brigham Young, did a separate Danite ledger off Joseph Smith's books. Joseph Smith didn't have books, it's donations. You know, you volunteer your time. But Brigham had Danites be a part of this and tricked certain women who would become polygamous wives after Joseph is dead, forced them to write in their journals claiming Joseph Smith raped them. Lie, lie, lie. Lie, lie, lie. Because Brigham Young would keep an actual marriage ledger of all the polygamous under child age marriages. And yeah, it's not in 1843. They lie, lie, lie. Lie, lie, lie. And so that's what the ledger was that the church rushed out last year, right before Thanksgiving. That's the ledger for the building of the temple was the cover. And instead, Emma had no money to pay for the debts after Joseph is dead. Oops. But Brigham Young had lots of money to flee the country and come to the valley. Leave all the poor behind. The Vanguard, that was the name of his company. And for the laying of the foundation of Zion. Nauvoo was already Zion. See? This is doubly, this is for his whole kingdom coup. Right there. He's cooing America. He's going to have to flee the country, though, to coup Mexico territory. But then the United States got it from Mexico the very next year. So Brigham lost it just like that. And so, building of my house is the financial ledger. Laying the foundation of Zion is the coup of America, the way to perfection. And for the priesthood, priestcraft. And for the debts of the presidency of my church, but they're the priesthood. So the presidency can just write blank checks and have the members pay for it. Yeah, that Brigham, such a great guy. And this shall be the beginning of the tithing of my people. Because wait, there's more. And after that, those who have thus been tithed shall now pay an additional 1/10 of all their interest, which is surplus. We can check, maybe I'm wrong. Money paid regularly. Oh, it's the protection racket money. At a particular rate for the use of money lent, or for delaying the repayment of a debt. The human trafficking cost. He's already setting it up for his human trafficking operation to get the poor people to Zion. Yep, that's what the Pioneer Trek, that's what we're celebrating in just 9 more days. I got it switched on the camera. I can't tell. 9 more days. And we celebrate human trafficking and child trafficking and sex trafficking and child sex trafficking. Yay! Church is true. Jesus. Yep, not a violation of the Book of Mormon whatsoever, is it? So yeah, the Perpetual Immigration Fund. The year after the year after. So 1847, Brigham Young flees the country and murders the native Indians to claim the land as his Zion, his kingdom. 1848, Mexico secedes. It defaults to the United States of America, becomes Utah territory for part of it, and then there's California territory and other territories, but that's where we get Utah from, 1848. And Brigham Young was sent a letter saying, we'll allow you to be the first governor of the territory of Utah. He's already pissed. He was king. Doesn't want to be no stupid governor. He wants revenge. And he did it when you see that he was murdering and chasing out all federal officers sent to Utah. Not just governors. There was a war here. And that's why the United States sent the army in, and the Salt Lake Temple with the inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple for religious freedom purposes, not for worshiping Lucifer, was delayed for 40 years. and 40 nights. 40 times 365. It was actually just 365. Yeah, that's 40 years, yeah. And so, yeah, and then 1849, Brigham Young incorporates the Perpetual Immigration Fund, i.e., trafficking, both human and child, and thus sex and child sex trafficking. And so this was a debt that members who came to this valley had to pay off. And once they paid that off, Brigham Young granted them American citizenship. Oops, that's Congress's job. Unless Congress declares a national emergency at the border of terrorists and diseased criminals, rapists, so then it becomes the president's job. And Congress washes their hands of the whole thing and gets to blame the president of the other party. And so, yeah, that's illegal. Can't do it. And then talking about you must observe, and keep, and obey law, statutes, judgments. Zion, Zion, Zion. This is human and sex with children trafficking all around the world. Okay. So, the United States House Committee on Ways and Means. U.S. representatives tour Welfare Square. Members of the Congressional Ways and Means Committee learn firsthand about the church's welfare system. Is that what they're involved with? Sort of. But the Committee on Ways and Means is the chief tax writing committee. 501c3, tax exempt for being charitable, of the United States House of Representatives. The committee has jurisdiction over all taxation. So remember that Lars Nielsen whistleblower? Anti-Mormon, anti-Christ, apostate, Korah whore? Yeah, he appealed to Congress. And finally they're doing something about it by checking out the church. Concerning tithing is what they're believing they're there for. Taxation, 501c3, tithing. But yeah, they also do tariffs and revenue-raising measures and a number of other programs, including Social Security, unemployment benefits, and Medicare, and the enforcement of child support laws, temporary assistance for needy family, foster care, adoption programs. But they specifically came to the church. Now, they were undercover back on the 12th, last Friday. The elected officials and staff were in town for a field hearing on medical innovation. That was their cover story, along with Zelensky. And if you saw the streets of Salt Lake City in preparation for Zelensky, you would notice a big difference between that and Trump's rally. There was no way in hell any terrorist was going to assassinate Zelensky. Utah is well authoritarian with military force and might. So, not that I'm putting out a tease out there, because bullies and terrorists love a challenge. I'm not calling for that whatsoever. Not at all. And they'll listen, and they'll behave, and stand back, and stand by? Or is it down? What did Trump say to white supremacists? That one rally? The elected officials, medical innovation. So yes, the church is all about medical innovations. They gave up the LDS church hospital. They have nothing to do with medical innovation. See what I mean? This was an undercover operation by the House committee. The committee, which is concerned about unemployment and welfare, was given a tour of the facility to better understand the church's world-renowned welfare system. They're involved in tithing. They're not going to the church to learn about welfare. They're there for a medical innovation. They're hearing complaints from Lars Nielsen about tithing. And tithing does not go for welfare. It does not go for the bishop's storehouse. Welfare square. Nope. Not at all. Unless fast offerings are dipping a little low, then they launder money into the different organizations to make up the lack thereof. And sometimes it's because the first presidency statement in response to Lars Nielsen and his filing with the IRS was that we do this with every source of income. Oh, you have over 3 dozen. Over. It's probably more like 5 or 6 dozen. I had to try to find all the different sources of revenue of the church way back in 2020. And in that process, Nelson is saying that every single source of income follows the exact same pattern of just Ensign Peak Advisors for tithing. So, tithing is one source of revenue. They receive the revenue from Mormons. It's forced. It is not a donation. If you have to pay when you're 8 years old, and if it's on the membership interview questions for worthiness, in order to get a temple recommend, to be Mormon, to be protected from the day that you'll burn as an oven, yeah, that's an extortion threat. And a protection racket, by definition, thus RICO would apply. Hey, I filed RICO. And hey, Bill Barr got it. And hey, Bill Barr said no, but I like the idea. Hey, prosecutors, get those Black Lives Matter protesters with it. And they didn't. But the January 6ers, yep, those who got convicted because of. And so, the church is under investigation for their tithing usage, whether it's violating the 501c3 that Lars Nielsen said it did. This is how long it takes them to finally do something. This was years ago when he filed. It was years ago when Trump committed the coup, and now he's getting away with it. The documents that were stolen, yeah, he's now gotten away with it. And so now it'll go to the appeals court, and Cannon will be replaced, and hopefully she's reprimanded and punished for what she did to purposely delay as long as possible so that it allows Trump to run for president, and thus once he becomes president or causes civil war, whichever happens, you know, if you would just let it happen and let Trump in. He's been wounded. Come on, people. I'm sure he's learned his lesson now. He would never cross that line again. He's not going to seek revenge. He's just kidding. God, people are so dumb. And so, yeah, he's going to get away with it. It's just disgusting. 3 Nephi chapter 7, we're all doomed. And so, yes, the church is preparing for this very year because they failed in 2020. Okay? And so Lars Nielsen is responsible for this. And they're undercover. Hey, we're in Utah. Let's go find out what the church is doing with their tithing money. Oh, Bishop Storehouse Welfare. Oh, okay, I guess you are doing something with the 501c3 in compliance. Okay, I will leave you alone. No, because, as Nelson revealed, 10%. Oh, that's clever, just like tithing. Goes into the LLC company for that one source of revenue. One LLC company, one source of revenue. Okay? Now, thanks to Australia, we learn that the church takes the excess money from the 90% that didn't go to the LLC company, and whatever they don't spend goes into an offshore bank account. So, recall Lars saying 200 billion in 2019. 10%. 2 trillion, which means 1 billion or 1,800 billion is left in the main account. And he says that the total operational spending for the whole church, not for tithing, is 5 to 6 billion. Which means for tithing, it's less. That all these other operations that have a different source of revenue are not part of the 5 to 6 billion, or are part of the 5 to 6 billion. So you got to remove those from the equation. And so what actually is used for tithing is far less than 5 to 6 billion. But the remaining gets laundered into an offshore bank account. So at least 2 trillion now for tithing is in an offshore bank account. 2 trillion in an offshore bank account. Now, if you're thinking, oh no, they would spend most of that money. Would they? Would they? Because remember, the church is claiming that because they have welfare square, they're in compliance, and so every other source of income don't need to comply. That's what Lars is saying. The LLC corporation is required by IRS law that the House Ways and Means Committee wrote requires all funding to pursue charitable purposes as written in their articles of incorporation. And the church says no. And so, again, the church is leading these guys astray. They're not taking them to Ensign Peak Advisors. They're not taking them to tithing. They're taking them to fast offerings, that source of income. And yeah, they do have a higher percentage of revenue that must go to the expense costs, because there's a lot of it. The church has farms, but those are like also the separate incomes. And so Yeah, the food actually are different sources of revenue get donated to the welfare square. So this is a little more complicated. As the church is involved in more criminal cover-ups, as we see. So, yep, it's actually the money is the only thing for fast offerings. And so the money for fast offerings is usually what is given out in terms of paying for those who have to be there and are not volunteers like church service missionaries, which is another source of revenue laundering to have them work at a welfare square or a bishop's storehouse. So yes, the church is cheap. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. There's the theme song in the description below. Okay. And so, yeah, the whole thing is a criminal operation. And these guys are getting directed to where the church wants them to go. They're not being allowed to see the financial records. They're not able to see all of the different sources of revenue and this whole process of LLC companies for each and offshore bank accounts. Nope. We're a religion. We're not a corporation. We're helping people. See Welfare Square. You know, the main people who are not missionaries are the only ones getting paid. And that's what the money for fast offerings is for. And that's why they switched to requiring missionary service to go there and stakes to send members to help their service hours. Donate their free time to go there and help on the farm or in the store and in the back warehouse. I've done that. It's a pretty cool operation if it wasn't a criminal organization. Get to meet some pretty hotties. You can never talk to them, never go anywhere with them. After the visit, they're there for help. They're not there for hookups. So it's not a dating site. But the church's mission is family first. Not with you. So, yeah, great. So why are you in a singles ward? Well, I'm here to learn what my mission on earth is from Jesus. Isn't it supposed to be barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen? How dare you! It's coming! Project 2025. I've warned you of the dangers. They're purposely destroying the school systems, putting in Bible. And they're forcing women to be trad wives. So, yeah, there's new trad wife channels on YouTube. Gwensgwick is the latest porn star who is now doing trad wife. And it is just so creepy. So creepy. The way she talks. It's like she's reading from a script. She's in another world. Her eyes are glazed over. And she's talking about the virtues of being a sex slave. A Handmaid's Tale. And it's scary. Literally scary. And I don't get it, women. I mean, the cute little honey bunny who was traumatized and then fell in love with her captor, but didn't realize he was her captor. You know, it's not really Stockholm Syndrome. And so, yeah, it was different, but but Mormon women, yeah, born and raised in the church to be in Stockholm Syndrome, abused from birth as a woman. And so when they get older, they're zombies to the church. And so you get Relief Society presidents put in because they've sufficiently passed the test of zombie Mormon apocalypse for females. She's said the right things. Good. You can now be the Relief Society president. Because we know we can trust you, and you're not going to be like that Lars guy at Ensign Peak Advisors, who's put into positions of trust and betrayed us. So we need to break his kneecaps and bring him back to the fold. You can't leave the family. So yeah, they're fooling the government, pulling the lamb's wool over their eyes, or the wolf's wool over their sheep's eyes. How does that work? Lambs in sheep's clothing? Or wolves in sheep's clothing? And you see, the guy who's given the tour, he legitimately thinks that he's there to teach them all about welfare square, and he is. But that's not why they're there. And so plausible deniability. You see, none of them are smart enough to know of the church's operations to ask the right questions and stump that guy. And who will reveal super sacred secrets the church does not want him to reveal if they were smart enough and went in with the right questions. But Lars, he doesn't know the church. He knew what he knew in his little bubble world, and that was it. And then he goes off and he doesn't understand Sidney Rigdon's role in the Book of Mormon, and he doesn't understand that other guy. And then he writes a book, and everybody thinks he's cool, and he's the one authority to listen to. And no, guys. He exposed the church's financial criminal operation. That's it. That's all. And he doesn't even fully understand it, because he was just with tithing. So yeah, this is a Lars fingerprint all over it. And the House Ways and Means Committee went in undercover.